Hey guys, in this video, I'm gonna show you how to make soul sample only with stock Logic plugins. So let's get right into it. I started this project with piano. As always, I used acoustic piano Steinway piano hole preset. This is what it sounds like before I put any effect plugins. It's just a simple chord progression. It goes 1, 6 minor 7, 2 minor, and 5 dominant. And you can see that I put ghost notes, so these ghost notes can give us a sound more human, like they're playing a real piano. And up here I put some accent notes. And I guess this Steinway piano hole preset already got this acoustic vintage sound, but I wanted to make it more like the original 70's soul song, so I put EQ at first. I cut the lows, boost, high mid, and cut the high end. Let's hear before and after. It's before. And this is after. It's subtle, but they can make huge difference at the final sample. And then I put this distortion 2 plugin. It's also stock Logic plugin. Let's hear the before and after. And this is after. You can hear that when the note hits, because of this distortion plugin, it sounds crispy and squashed and distorted. All these small changes can make sound dramatically vintage and authentic at the end. And let's check this soul organ preset. As you can see, also stock Logic plugin here, vintage B3 organ, soul organ. Let's hear this without any effects. As you can hear it, it's already got vintage vibe like this piano hole preset. So I think there's not many things I should do to make this sound vintage. So I just put a EQ and that is it for this soul organ preset. Let's hear before and after. And this is after. And we don't want too many high-end frequencies, because after we got the final sample, we like to pitch up or down. And when we pitch up the sample, if there are so many high frequency informations, it sounds so harsh and it doesn't really sound good. So I like to cut the high end always. And I added this 3 violins preset from vintage Mellotron. Like I said, this also got really vintage sound. So I just put EQ, sounds like this. And for the Melodic Instruments, lastly, added this little Brazil for studio horns. Sounds like this. think compared to the sampler and the stock Logic plugins, it sounds more real when you use the stock Logic libraries here. If you type Y, you can see the library window. So I truly recommend go through all these libraries so that you can find more human feeling when you're using only MIDIs. Yeah, it sounds real. I put this EQ and added this distortion too. So after all the effects, it sounds like this. So only with this instruments, it sounds like this. At this point, I thought that, well, the instruments are done, so I put drums and bass. I use 60's Soul Plus preset, and I put this, I think it's a rim shot. It says count in / clave. It sounds like this. It sounds like you're hitting your drumsticks together to notice the BPM right before you start playing drums. It goes like this. Let's look at the MIDI notes. It's really simple. There's nothing special, nothing crazy about it. I put kick and snare. I wanted to put really simple drums so that instruments are more focused than the drums. And I put the ride out when you start the drums. It's subtle, but it's there. And I added this simple little snare rim shot. And you can copy this region for 4 times, but I want it to sound more like human, so that I put some other notes here. I added hand claps when snare comes in, and I slightly push them backward so that it sounds like a real person is clapping. And for the fill in, I added kicks and snare more right here. Yeah, and I think this is it for the drum MIDI notes. I added this EQ, cut the low end and high end, and added distortion. And I set the drive really high, and I lowered the output gain like -8 dB. So after the EQ and distortion, it sounds like this. It sounds much more crunch. You can hear the clap. And yeah, this is it for this samples drum. And then I added bass. For the bass, I used this vintage soul bass preset. You can find it here, bass vintage soul. Actually, I didn't put any effect plugins on this track. I just put this Pro Q3 to check the main frequency of the bass, and I just put gain preset, and I didn't touch none of these, but turn on the mono so the sound of the bass stay in mono, not the stereo. It sounds like this. It's really simple. It's just following the root notes of the chords. And lastly, I thought I should add vocal to this, so I found this South African singers preset right here. You can find it, word, voice, and here, South African singers. And you can change the articulation. I used oo, but you can change it to la or ah if you want it. It's really simple. There's nothing crazy about it. I just added more notes, more harmony to the when the second part comes in, so it sounds less loopy, less repetitive. So I added this EQ, cut the low end, boost the high mid a hair, and high shelf cut like -3 dB. And then I added this distortion to plugin, and after the effect plugins, it sounds like this. You can hear the distortion comes in on the second part playing, and with all these I added this final noise, and all together I put plate reverb on this and arrange a bit, and with high end I bounce them all together. But right before I do that, I bounce only this part because I want to put glue compression on the song part of the sample. So this is what it sounds like. As I said, I wanted to add glue compressions so that the sample sounds more cohesive and a real song. So I added this vintage fat compressor. As you can see, it's not working like crazy, just about a dB. It's a subtle change, but I think in the end it can give more like a real song. It can make it like more real song. And I added this gain and loudness meter, so I level matched this sample. And with this, I choose this sample and all the ingredients of the sample. I bounce them together, and here we got the sample with ingredients. And I wanted to put more like vintage saturation to the sample, so I added this vintage console EQ. I didn't touch any of the knobs here, like low cut, low gain. I didn't touch anything, but I just drive all the way up to 11 so that this vintage EQ plugin gives just the saturation of the vintage EQ. It sounds like this. This is before. After. With this, I bounce this sample again. So here I got the final sample, and then I pitch it up 3 semitones, and I set the tempo all the way to 76. So the final result sounds like this. Well, I think this is it for today's video. Hope you enjoy it, and see you next time. Peace.